All right, everyone. Welcome to the Madison Podcast. My name is Ben Lavender. The homies call me New York's favorite British mortgage broker, as does my mother. Today we have a very special podcast guest, Brandon G. I cannot pronounce your last name despite the fact that you told me 3 seconds ago, but I will allow you, or actually I will request that you please introduce yourself to the people of the world,
Sure.
who you are, what you do, and all that jazz.
Yeah, appreciate that, Ben. So my name is Brandon Gidicsin.
Gidicsin.
Okay. There we go. And we met through Collab Projects, which is a great networking organization.
Yes.
And I've had a few, I would say a few careers within the world of real estate. Started out in commercial real estate brokerage on the office leasing side. I've done a little bit of property management, and I've done a little bit of mortgage brokerage as well. And now
I want to hear about your mortgage experience as a mortgage broker.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I worked for a small company in Westchester, and I was only there for a few months. It just wasn't a super good fit. I would say part of it was from the rates. I started in November of 2022.
Oh.
So I walked right into a buzzsaw, basically.
Yeah.
And
Great time to get in.
yeah, and I think I always knew subconsciously that I wanted to be on the investor side. So I raised money for charity for the past 4 years. So I like the aspect.
Which charity?
Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I was really, really involved with that, raising money. So I like the aspect of raising money.
Yeah.
And
Do you have someone in your family that's been affected?
Yeah. My dad passed from Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was 10.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah.
Appreciate that,
That makes
Ben.
sense.
So he was affected by it, so it gave me a really strong passion for that charity. And, I just really like the aspect of raising money, and I had the real estate experience. So I kind of wanted to marry those two skill sets together.
It's so interesting that, and I find this happens with a lot of people, for instance, teachers that I have a lot of teachers on the podcast, or people that used to be teachers,
Right.
and transitioned into real estate, and they find that the skill set, you're able to change it over to there. So, which is interesting because I've never heard of that, just raising charity or raising money for charity. Ended up being a skill set for you to raise money and pull investors together and work on big projects. So talk to us a little bit more about that, please. That's very interesting.
Yeah, sure. So I have a few projects that I'm working on, two of which I can talk about, one of which I can't because with the SEC, there's, certain ways when you raise money. One is called a 506C offering. The other is called a 506B.
Can you tell us the difference between the two?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had to educate myself.
Yeah, and me and our audience.
Yeah. So a 506C offering means that when, you want to buy an apartment complex, the purchase price is $10 million. You can pull together investors through a legal term called syndication. So most big operators and most big developers, they do what's called a 506C offering, which means you can market it publicly. It could be an unlimited number of investors.
Do they have to be accredited?
They have to be accredited,
Okay.
and you can market it publicly.
Got it.
And for those less acquainted, accredited means you have to earn $200,000 a year for the past 2 years by yourself, $300,000 with a spouse, or a net worth of $1 million outside of your primary residence, or you have to be an RIA, or you have to be connected with a fund that has at least $5 million, I think, in liquid assets, but I have to double check that.
Yeah, but we're not going to double check.
No.
But how do they check that? Do they verify? Does the, say for you, for instance,
Sure.
do you verify that if someone wants to come on that they're accredited, are you personally looking at their stuff?
Sure.
Or how does that work?
Yes, so we have so when you're a developer, you have a forward-facing client portal, basically. So the investor has to check the PPM, which is the private placement memorandum, which it states all of the return metrics for your investment. And then you do what's called a forget the exact name for it, but it's like a self-verification form, basically, to make sure that you're accredited.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So there's a 506C, and then there's a 506 B offering, which means it could be from accredited or non-accredited. You can't market it publicly, and you have to have a pre-existing relationship with that person.
Got it. So let me ask you, let's say take someone that everyone knows and, that's a big syndicator, very famous
I think I know who you're going to talk about.
Grant Cardone.
Of course.
Right. So I've seen a lot of articles in the news about him or, negative things primarily. Yeah. I'm not going to add because I don't want to be involved in anything. But for what he's going through, is it because he's not going after accredited investors? He's just offering these deals through Instagram and whatever. So I imagine that's a bit of a gray zone. Yeah.
So there's a few other types of ways to structure it. So I talked about 506C, 506B, which one of my offerings is a 506B, which is why I can't really talk about it. Right. And then he does what's called a Regulation A offering, which means you can raise up to $75 million. It could be from accredited, non-accredited. The investors could invest $100 or they could invest $100,000. I don't know specifically what he got in hot water for.
I don't even know if anything actually happened.
Yeah.
Things were just filed. Because anyone can file a lawsuit at the end of the day, right?
Of course.
Thing for it to go through.
Yeah.
So, I don't know either. I mean, I don't have any ill will toward him personally. Actually, when I got into the mortgage business, I've never been a very salesy person, honestly, ever throughout my life. If you ask most people that know me, they would describe me as an introvert. So I brainwashed myself with his audiobooks.
Nice.
Because they turned me into a more aggressive salesman, I'd say. Not to the point where I'm choking people, take this mortgage. Yeah. But, it's so that was for me, I had a positive experience from his stuff there. But in terms of the sales skills themselves, I didn't find them useful. But the mentality was good.
Sure.
So I imagine he's not exactly a guy that you look up to. Feel free not to answer that. Actually.
Yeah. I'll just give a quick soundbite about that. So I've read his books, one of them specifically about raising capital, which I found super, super helpful. And I've, seen the way he's raised for his offerings. And I think it's pretty amazing the way he's able to, market his properties.
Yeah. And his marketing in general is impressive.
Yeah.
No, but it's also a sexy subject. Everyone wants to be a real estate investor. Or
sure.
Because forget the money aspect. It just sounds cool. Work on these 10, 20 million, 75 million, whatever dollar projects.
Right.
And a lot of them, especially you see these gurus. I mean, what was it as well? There was some DJ was involved with someone.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I forgot who it was, but that was another one. They were pooling money together, and they got sued out the face. I think the head of it is in jail now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that going on, and a lot of people that don't know what they're doing, which is not you. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about how do you go about raising capital? You going to people in your network? You networking outside?
Yeah. So there's a few ways, right? I would say first and foremost, and this goes for anyone raising money. And I should state that raising money for charity, it taught me a lot that's pretty transferable to raising for real estate. Yeah. And the first thing, it comes back to relationships. If you have good relationships with people, they know and trust you, that's a great place to start. And more often than not, even if the people who are in your network, even if they can't invest directly, they could still refer you, to other people who are in their network as well. So I would say that's been huge. Social media is very, very powerful, as you know. I love LinkedIn. I think it's a great platform. It's super underutilized, I think, for a lot of people in the real estate space, more so real estate brokers and mortgage brokers. For me, LinkedIn has been really awesome, and I use Sales Navigator as well.
What is Sales Navigator?
So it's a program that you have to pay for, but you can do more specified searches, right? So I've really been drawn to raising from physicians because they, if they earn a lot in a W-2 role, right? If they're the head surgeon at a hospital, they don't have a lot of time. And if you're in a W-2 role, oftentimes you're taxed really heavy.
Yes.
And it sucks. But a great way to offset your tax liabilities to invest in real estate.
Interesting. So obviously I'm not a CPA, and if you don't know this, don't worry. But I'm curious. So for instance, let's say a physician makes $1 million a year. He's a surgeon, whatever the case, or she's a surgeon.
On a gross basis.
Yeah.
Yep.
Grossly. And say that the surgeon has $300,000 of that year to invest. Does that get removed from his taxable income or her taxable income?
It's a good question. I believe it's more so when they invest, you take depreciation with the property that you're raising capital for, and then you pass off that depreciation to your LPs, which are your investors, basically.
Got it. So it offsets the gains or the profits.
Right.
On
So just as like a quick example, say in that same sort of situation where they earn $1 million on a gross basis.
Yeah.
If you invest in real estate, you're taxed as if you earn, say, $950,000 that year, $900,000, something like that.
Dope.
Yeah.
That's huge. A lot of people need that.
A lot of people, yeah.
Yeah. And what I didn't realize, because I bought my first rental, I think 6 years ago. And at the time, like, everyone was like, yeah, you need to pick up some real estate because you need, you need some losses. And what I didn't know is that because I was filing Schedule E on my returns, is that those losses, real estate losses specifically, do not count against your W-2 income.
Right.
Right. So I was very upset. But, I mean, long story short, I figured it all out. Everything's good now.
Right.
But it's like, it's important because people have these expectations. Like, it works against the income that's coming in.
Sure.
Right. Or depending how you set it up. Yeah. So you use the software to, I wouldn't say go after, but target, let's say, physicians on LinkedIn. You're reaching out to them and getting meetings and, showing them offerings. How does that all work? That's very interesting.
Yeah. So just as a quick example, since I'm trying to go after physicians, I could say, and since I live in Connecticut, closer to Bridgeport, I could say, you could search, first of all, by zip code. So I search within a 20 or 30 mile radius of Bridgeport. So that's criteria number one. And then you can search by job title. And then you can search by seniority. And then you can search by number of years they've been in that role.
Yeah.
And then you can search companies that, that they work for. And then you can get a really specific search. As to who you want to target, and it's super, super helpful. Like, there's people that I know who raise capital for other people's deals, and people who raise money for their own deals, and they've raised millions just off of LinkedIn.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
So I have to ask you, Brandon, where did you learn all this from?
So I am in a mastermind, but
you don't have to tell us which one.
Yeah, one of the masterminds that I belong to, which I should sort of specify. You shouldn't join every mastermind that you see.
Right.
You really have to do a lot of due diligence about the person that leads that mastermind and get references. But that was just...
I'm glad you said. I was just going to ask you how you pick. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because you've been doing this for not too long, but you're doing very well at it. So it's impressive. And I was curious because it's like, I was thinking, as you were saying, like, quite a bit for someone who hasn't been doing it for that long. You must have had some help. So that's because it speeds up your learning curve. Why figure it out yourself for 10 years when you can learn it in a few months or however long it takes?
Yeah, I think reading books, super, super helpful. And you shouldn't read about every single topic. It should be more so specified as to what you want to learn. So the more niche that you're able to really go, it helps like what you're doing.
Yes.
This way, if I say that I'm raising from physicians, the first thing you might try to think about, like who are a couple of physicians, who are in my network, as opposed to saying I just raise from accredited investors. It's kind of broad like that.
Yeah, and I'm sure it helps you every day going after a particular audience because you don't have to learn all these different things. Because every single person that you go for, to one degree or another, is nuanced, I imagine.
Yes.
So, like learning physicians versus engineers or lawyers or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Got to make it easier.
Absolutely.
Brandon, do you have a favorite book that like changed the game for you?
It's a good question. I mean, I would say Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's what changed my mindset a little bit.
Got it.
It just really helps with your mindset of, trying to put your money into things that will produce passive income or relatively passive income, because not all real estate is very passive.
I like that you said that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think they'll buy a bunch of rentals and just like chill on a beach for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
You know, it can get there eventually, but especially in the beginning, I feel like you gotta learn the game.
Absolutely. So I would say Rich Dad Poor Dad, and there's a really good book by Peter Thiel. Have you heard of? So Peter Thiel was one of the founders of PayPal, along with Elon Musk, and he has a venture capital fund called Founders Fund, about $3 billion in assets under management.
That's it, just $3 billion, nothing.
Yeah, no big deal, right? And he wrote a really good book called 0 to 1, and he talks about trying to be a big fish in a small pond. And that's been really, really helpful because it really reminds you to pick a niche and just trying to be, the best that you possibly can within that niche.
Got it.
Yeah.
0 to 1.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll check that out.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit as well, Brandon, and I do want to get into your background, but we'll get to that in a bit. Talk to us about like how social media has really worked for you. Like how, not LinkedIn, but more so Instagram, Facebook if you use it.
Yeah.
Is it as useful for networking, like with maybe not physicians, but other people, for instance, we connected through
Sure.
it in the business? Has that helped you at all?
For me, not as much. I don't use Instagram to prospect. It's more so just to post and just to kind of remind people about what I'm doing. And like if I'm hosting a networking event or something like that, or if I have an active deal to post the details about it basically. But I don't really use Instagram to prospect just because
your audience isn't really on there.
Yeah.
I feel.
And just with LinkedIn, you can go super specific and you can get a lot of traction on a lot of your posts if you just know how to post effectively basically. So you learn that over time.
Gotcha. Okay, so I have to ask a very, very common question, but goal wise, because you're young, but you're getting it going, you're very into it. Like I see your growth being quite strong very soon. What are the plans? The 5-year, the 10-year, the billion-year plans? The
billion-year plans.
Legacy.
So right now I have a couple residential projects. I have a 506c fund, which is for accredited investors. I'm raising $4 million to buy a portfolio of single-family homes used as short-term rentals, and then a couple multifamily projects as well. But I would say long-term to transition more into commercial space, so like really, really commercial. Medical office, I would say, is like a huge interest of mine.
Physicians.
And it ties into physicians as well, because a lot of physicians understand medical office to a certain extent. It's more of a familiar asset class than buying a retail strip.
It's a really good point, actually, because they'll feel more comfortable investing into something that they have some understanding of versus something they don't.
Yeah, so I would say it's to own a portfolio of medical office buildings and maybe a few other asset classes like cold storage or data storage, but super niche within just really good commercial properties, because a lot of these tenants sign long-term leases. Yeah. Like if you have to do a build out for a certain physician, like a radiologist or for a dentist, they'll sign a 30-year lease, which is great. And they won't move. And there's a lot more ways to add value to those types of properties. Like you can sell the rooftop easement to a cell tower company like AT&T or Verizon, and you can make cell tower income.
Interesting.
Yeah. You can resurface the parking lot and, increasing the value of that property. You could turn common area space into more office space, increasing the NOI. You could do what's called a cost seg study. I'm not sure if you've heard of cost seg. So cost segregation is when you can accelerate depreciation of your property. So with residential property, 4 units or less, you could take depreciation over a 27-year schedule. And with commercial real estate, like this office building, you can take depreciation over a 39-year schedule. And with cost seg, you can accelerate that down to a 5-year schedule. So you could take a lump sum of depreciation and save a lot of money on your taxes, basically.
How do you do that?
You have to go to a cost seg company, basically, which I'm affiliated with a few. And they run a study with an engineer basically to see what parts of your property wear down over time.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really, really cool stuff.
That's a nice little trick.
It is.
I like that. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, because depreciation, we all love some depreciation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, taxes, no thanks.
No thanks.
We'll take that out.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So that's a good way to segue out. So tell us, Brandon, a little bit about your background. You mentioned before that you grew up in. Did you grow up in Sweden or did you just live there?
Yeah. So I'll.
Well, yeah. Start with how did you end up in Sweden of all places?
I'll give some context. So my dad and his whole side of the family is from Long Island. My mom is from Sweden. Her side of the family is from Sweden. My mom came to the U.S. in her 20s. She met my dad. They got married. They had me and my two younger siblings, Austin and Luke. 06, unfortunately, my father passed away. And me, my mom, and my brothers lived on Long Island from 06 after his passing until 09. 09, we moved to Sweden. And then in 2012, I moved back to live with my uncle, which is my dad's brother. So I did 8th, 9th, and 10th grade in Sweden. I thought it was a great experience. It gave me a lot of, it really opened up my mind to other cultures out there and geographies.
What is life like in Sweden? I don't know anything about Sweden.
So a lot of people drive manual. They drive stick over there. So I did teach my friends in Sweden how to drive automatic because everybody drives stick there.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
How to drive automatic. It's so much easier.
Yeah. And a lot of people drive stick. They love hockey. They have the third most players in the NHL. Spotify's from Sweden. H&M is from Sweden. IKEA's from Sweden. The Zipper's from Sweden. The Pacemaker's from Sweden.
They have good stuff in Sweden.
Minecraft is from Sweden.
So hold on. So it was basically your mom's decision to take you to Sweden.
Yep. After
your dad passed. Did she want to be closer to family? What was it from her side?
Yeah, I would say a lion's share of the reason was for me and my siblings to be close to family. But it turned out to be very, very fortunate because I have dual citizenship. I speak Swedish. It's not useful unless I'm in IKEA.
It's probably not even useful if you're in IKEA, actually, unless you're reading something.
Yeah. But, it was a really, really good experience. And even professionally now, when I, speak with people, it's easy for me to relate to them, like if they know a lot about their culture, right?
Well,
like
you also have life and world experience. I think the statistic is like 90% of Americans haven't even left the country.
Yeah.
So I actually don't think there's anything really that wrong with that because America is freaking massive.
Right.
There are
country.
so many places to go to, but what people really say is like most people don't leave their hometown or barely do, or they go to the same places. So it's just, I think it gives you an advantage. I mean, for me, it does as well. I wouldn't say that I'm this worldly, amazingly well-cultured person, but growing up in another country, given that the country was England, an English-speaking country,
right?
It doesn't make a huge difference, but it is nice to meet people from other parts of the world for sure. Like I like to travel at least a few times a year.
Right.
I mean, out of the country maybe once a year or twice a year if I can swing that. And it just every single time you go, it like refreshes your brain. I always get new business ideas as well.
Yeah.
Given that most of them happen while I'm like on the beach and probably drunk and I don't remember them. That's why you got to take notes. It would be like phone notes.
That's so funny.
But you need to cut loose, and it really does open your mind for sure. So you felt that it translated skill wise or like mindset wise to business and life over here, basically.
I think so too. And even to carry on that point about professionally, there's a lot of benefits for foreigners to invest in U.S. real estate or U.S. businesses. Like there's something called EB-5, which it means that as a foreigner, if you invest $800,000 into a property or a business, it has to create at least 10 full-time jobs. But what that does, it makes the process of getting a green card here in the U.S. a lot easier and a lot more streamlined. The only caveat is that you have to have $800,000. But if you can find those people, it's a great way. And there's a lot of developers, like I'm sure you've heard of Ryan Serhant, right?
Yeah.
So he listed that property that was at the top of Gary Barnett's building Excel Development in Manhattan for $250 million that he dropped down to $195 million. But the developer raised all of the funds for that building, or at least a lion's share of the funds from the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund. So there's a lot of foreign money that's coming into the U.S. And if you're able to kind of capitalize on that, it creates a lot of opportunity.
Travel.
Yeah.
Go to travel and meet a bunch of rich people, basically.
Definitely.
Yeah, a good way. So I've been into Formula One for a while now. It's a great way to just go. I'd say go to every F1 event in the Middle East.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. And I would just spend stupid money.
We'll have to plan
tickets.
a trip then.
Yeah, we have to. I'd love to. There's another trip that I've been meaning to do. It's got nothing to do with F1, but they plan this thing where you basically pick any sports car that you want and you drive all the way from, I don't know, I think it's north of France through the Swiss Alps and Italy, and then you finish the trip in Monaco.
Really?
At the Monaco Grand Prix.
It's pretty
really
awesome.
Cool. Yeah, it's expensive, but not too expensive. So it's on my Mark and I talk about it all the time because we want to do it, but we have work to do.
Yeah.
So it's if we ever do that, I'll let you know. But that's another great way. But in general, I find networking through doing things like that is the best way to meet people.
Exactly.
And the bigger, the more people in our circle and in our world, and then if you say add your social media in loop with that, right? And I find a lot of people, I've noticed this pattern in people. I don't do this myself, but what people will do is basically go to as many events as they can, meet as many people as they can, and then basically use social media to stay in touch with them.
Interesting.
Right? So it's both interacting with them, posting themselves, but not becoming a social media vomiter, basically.
Right.
You don't want to post, I'd say, too much of your personal life and even your work life, because again, depending on what you're doing, especially given what you're doing, Brandon, I think that would be probably a turnoff to your investors. Right. But realtors and mortgage brokers alike, like us for instance, it's a really good strategy. But again, it's different for everyone. Nuance, you have to adapt it for what you're doing, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's a really important key. And just to follow up on that, I don't think you should go to every single event that's out there. You should be selective with your time, because if you go to too many events, you're not going to get work done.
Right.
And there's a lot of events that are not worth your time, and there are great events out there. You just have to be kind of selective with that.
It's funny you say that, because, and I talk about this on the podcast quite a bit, there are a lot of events in the residential real estate and mortgage world where, let's say, there's maybe 5 events a week, right? Depending on where in New York you're going, but it's the same people going to the events,
right,
over and over and over again. So you're literally just networking with the same people over again, and these people become your friends, which is awesome. Actually, I've made friends myself through these events,
sure,
and good business associates. But the problem is if you're seeing the same people over and over again, it's not networking anymore. You're just hanging out with your buddies.
Yeah.
And that's cool. But understand that you're not networking and you are in fact just having a good time. That's fine, but it's not work.
Right.
It's not work. So we see it all the time. Don't fall into that trap. New people that come into the business, it's a bad trap.
Yeah.
It's a very bad trap.
Exactly.
Brandon, I was wondering, do you have, because I find that most people in our business do, or at least try to, do you have a special morning or daily routine? Any particular way that you like to structure your day?
I wake up and I walk my dog.
Okay.
No, I used to be a very big believer in that. Wake up, read 5 pages, drink, whatever, a cup of water, go for a walk. But then I feel like if there's a lot of people who could spend 2 or 3 hours just on their morning routine.
Right.
And it really eats into your day. And Alex Hormozy, I think he's a great person, which I'm sure you've heard of him. And he literally just says that he gets up and he just starts his day.
Yeah, it just does working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I saw that clip the other day too. It's funny.
Yeah.
But it depends on the person. But I find for most people, it's probably true, right? If you're spending 3 hours of your morning doing this entire routine to make the rest of your day more efficient, you're exhausted by the end of the 3 hours. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying you should wake up and work right away.
Right.
But, find a balance.
Yep.
Something that makes sense.
Yeah.
But for you, you're pretty much simple. Just get up, walk your dog, go to work.
Yeah. The only thing I would add is if my day allows to read, I would say 5 pages, but that's about it.
Okay. Any particular topic? Or are you just sticking to real estate?
I'm reading a book now called Credit Stacking. So learning how to optimize lines of credit effectively.
Yeah. This guy's working.
Yeah.
He's working. Okay, exactly. Other question, non-business related. How did you get so good at ping pong?
So my dad was ranked 44 in the country at tennis before he passed.
God, you're going to kick my ass.
Yeah.
So I haven't played Brandon yet, but I'm about to, so he's going to destroy me. Okay, so your dad got you into it.
Yeah, and living in Sweden, it's a big sport there. So I would play a lot when I went to school, and it was just really, really fun. I should preface, I haven't played in like 6 months, so I might be a little bit rusty. So we'll see how it pans out.
Just go easy. Just take it down by like 25-30%.
Okay.
Actually, I'd say 90%.
Okay.
I'm very bad. But I could, do some volleys. So just, don't embarrass me.
That's funny.
Anthony, your job is to get everything on video, but don't make me look too bad.
Yep.
Make me look semi-bad. Okay, got it. So, what about life plans, family plans? Is that something that you're looking to do, or like business first, further down the line?
No. So I have, I do have a fiance that I got engaged.
Congratulations!
I appreciate
Awesome.
that, Ben.
Awesome.
So I have a fiance, and we're planning to have a kid probably within the next year and a half.
God willing.
Yeah. So super, super excited about that. Get married, and right now I live up in Connecticut. Within the next few years, buying a vacation property used for Airbnb, right? So to actually, make it cash flow and not just be, a liability, basically.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm looking to do the same thing, but in Florida.
Nice.
I can't. The winter.
I know.
It makes me angry. I just leave my apartment every day, just
Angry.
pissed off, and literally, like, there are days, not as much anymore because now I'm spoiled. I go from garage to garage.
Oh, nice.
So thank God for that. But like, there were days where I'd leave my old apartment and I'd just be like, fuck. I hate this. I hate this. And
right.
It's too much. But I don't get like seasonal depression. But like all of us, it's winter. We don't have as much energy. I like to keep active, keep moving. So I'm going skiing tomorrow. So
nice.
That'll help.
Where at?
But
where?
I think it's called Bellevue or Bel Air upstate.
Bel Air.
Yeah, Bel Air. That's it. So it's my second time going. I've only been. I went first time a couple weeks ago, and I enjoyed it. Are you a skier?
Yes.
Yeah. I imagine in Sweden you did quite a bit.
I've skied a handful of times, but nothing like too crazy. But yeah, it's a fun sport.
Yeah. Are you a big hobby person, like outside of work? You a gym goer? Is that kind of your thing?
Gym, not as much as I used to be.
Yeah.
A little bit of ping pong. I love pickleball though.
Pickleball, I hear mixed reviews.
Yeah?
No, I hear everyone says that it's fun and it's awesome, but everyone that I speak to says they're just tearing their ACL left and right. But you're young, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, they just opened up a pickleball spot right by me in Connecticut, and I was playing against a few people who were in their older years. Let's just leave it at that. But I still showed no mercy. Like, I was smashing every single time. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You okay? Yeah. I am definitely not looking forward to this. Okay, so let's wrap it up then. We're at about half an hour in, I think, right?
Yeah.
So, Brandon, and you can decline, by the way, any final words of wisdom for your audience?
Sure.
And if not, whether you do or not, please tell people how and where they can reach you.
Sure. So I would say 2 things, and I just started to think about this the other day, but when you call a person, you should always ask if they have a few minutes to chat. Don't just pick up the phone and just have their ear for half an hour, because I've seen those people that pop up on my phone, and now, I'm not as quick to answer their calls. Right. So I would say that's the first thing. The second thing is just to speak a little bit less when you're in a conversation, and to listen to the other person just more than what you would normally do. And there's a really good quote, and it goes like this: a wise man speaks because he has something to say, but a fool speaks because he has to say something. And it's a really good thing to think about.
That before. That's a great one.
Yeah. On Twitter and or X now and Instagram, it's Brandon Cashflow, one word.
Brandon G, Cashflow King.
Yeah. Thank you, Ben.